welcome back. And now we're going to start our second day about the nervous system. We're going to start with a short topic, which is just kind of an introduction, where we are going to give an overview of the central nervous system. So, in this overview, let's review that the central nervous system is just the brain and the spinal cord, both of which are protected by bone and connective tissue. So in the cross section of the spinal cord in the lower right, you can see that there is some connective tissue that surrounds it. And when you look at the brain up there in the upper left, you can see on the surface of the brain that we can still see blood vessels. And then you can see this slightly milky whitish covering over the brain, but we can still see the surface of the brain. In fact, in this picture, we have two layers of the covering of the brain still on the surface. And that's two of the three protective membranes known as meninges. So let me show you where those meninges are. This drawing shows that if you looked at your head, first you would have skin. Underneath the skin, we have some fat, and underneath that, we have our skull bone. And then deep to the skull bone, we are going to have three layers of meninges. Now, the thickest one is the one that's right next to the bone. And in fact, in the skull, it is also the periosteum of the skull bone. So it's dense, fibrous, connective tissue everywhere. Then we have another layer, which was the layer that you could clearly see that was sort of whitish on the surface of the brain. And then remember, we could see little blood vessels. So here showing a little artery, a little vein. And then there actually is a very thin single cell layer that covers the surface of the brain. Basically, that's an epithelial layer because remember, every freaking surface in our body has to be covered by epithelium. So that third meningeal layer is just a layer of epithelium on the surface of the brain. And then these tannish areas are showing the brain with a darker area meant to represent the gray matter as found in the cerebral cortex. So the last thing I want to point out on this picture is that this space between the two deeper layers of the meninges, this is a space, it looks kind of like cobwebs, right, for Halloween in there. This is the space that not only contains the blood vessels, which are nourishing the brain, but also contains a fluid known as the cerebral spinal fluid, which we'll get to on a subsequent slide. Now, whenever we have an inflammation of any of these layers surrounding the brain, this is known as meningitis, and it's usually due to either a bacterial or a viral infection. And yes, meningitis still can leave you with major complications or in some cases kill you because, antibiotics don't treat viral infections. All right. So, did you know that our brains aren't solid tissue, that they actually have spaces in them that are fluid filled? And those spaces inside our brain form what we call the ventricular system. So if we look at this drawing on the left, where you have this thing that kind of looks like the Starship Enterprise with this duck beak or something in them, that's the drawing of the ventricular system. And then you can see it kind of goes downward into these triangular areas, and eventually it forms what looks like this little canal, and that canal will go all the way down the entire length of the spinal cord. There's this little canal right in the middle known as the central canal. And so both of those places, the central canal and the ventricular system, are going to be filled with that cerebral spinal fluid. And so if we did a section of the brain, here you can see the space in the main part of the brain, which correlates to this area right here. But I want you to realize this space will go all the way back here and then also comes forward. As well, we have this triangular area here, which correlates with this triangular area there. And this round area here kind of correlates to this round area there. You can kind of see the depression right there. Now, not only is there this space within the brain itself, but we also have fluid on the outside of the brain. As you recall, I said it's between these two layers, the same space that contains the blood vessels. And so that's why it's showing this fluid on the outside of the brain, and it's also outside the spinal cord. So this cerebral spinal fluid is this very clear, colorless fluid. And because it surrounds the brain actually floats in it and it acts as a cushion. And so it makes your brain feel a lot lighter than it really is because your brain actually weighs a couple of pounds. And I know you're going to say, Dr. Powell, my head feels really heavy. Well, that's because your bones feel heavy, but your brain actually has a weight and you're not feeling the weight of your brain because it is floating. And so the dark blue here in both of the pictures is showing everywhere, all the little nooks and crannies, as well as this ventricular system that is filled up with this cerebrospinal fluid, meaning this fluid is not only part of the spinal cord, but is also part of this part of the brain known as the cerebrum, filling those ventricles, the central canal, and that space between the two inner layers of the meninges. Okay. So that brings us to the spinal cord, which, as you recall, hopefully the outer part, the more superficial part, are the axons, which are traveling up and down. We have a bunch of sensory axons taking information up towards the brain and a bunch of motor axons bringing motor messages back down to take them out to the body. And deep to that, we have the gray matter, which contains the cell bodies. And so what this is going to allow is communication between the brain and the nerves in the peripheral nervous system, which are outside the spinal cord. So let's look outside the spinal cord and see what that looks like. And for that, let's look at this model. So here is the spinal cord. And if we look on this side of the spinal cord, you can see this swelling right here. This swelling right here is on the posterior or dorsal side of the spinal cord. And so it's called a dorsal ganglion. And it is where the cell bodies of the sensory neurons are located. So if you recall when I showed those sensory neurons, their cell bodies were kind of in the middle. And so you have the sensory receptor way over there, and then it traveled, and then the cell body, and then the axon continued. And so that the axon terminal would be here in the gray matter of the spinal cord, but the cell body is here. So this is the dorsal ganglion containing the cell bodies of the sensory neuron, and then the axon continues and will synapse here in the gray matter of the spinal cord. So this portion outside the spinal cord will be containing those sensory fibers. So the sensory information is coming in posteriorly, and the motor information is going to go out anteriorly. And in here is where we're going to be having our interneurons. Okay, so we could have an interneuron going directly from a sensory neuron to a motor neuron, or we could have it ascending up and then descending back down in other ones. So on the motor neurons, the cell body would have to be here in the gray matter, and now the axon is going to exit on the ventral side. And then it would continue all the way out until it reached the effector organ. Once it continues lateral over here, once it's lateral to where this dorsal ganglion is, Here, we're going to have two-way traffic because we'll have the sensory information coming in and the motor information going out. So it's like a two-way street out there. But once we get to the level where we have that dorsal ganglion, from that point going towards the spinal cord is sensory information on the dorsal side and motor information on the ventral side. All right. So if you look around the spinal cord, you can see that there is tissue around it in the photomicrograph, but let's look at the actual photograph of a real spinal cord because it's kind of cool to see it. Here's the spinal cord, kind of yellowish, and this is taken opening it up posteriorly. So these are the sensory input fibers going in here into the spinal cord. So this is the white matter of the spinal cord. And then, so you would have the first layer of the meninges right here on the surface of the spinal cord. This would be the second layer right here. We know this is the second layer because we can see a little blood vessel here. And then this would be the third layer right here pinned to the outside. The third layer is very tough. It's very protective and it is opaque. You cannot see through it. So as you see, like you can't see what's pinned on the other side. But then you can see, like, if these are the sensories, if you peek deep, like right here, you can see that there were like little motor fibers down there. And so if you can envision motor fibers there and sensory fibers here, and if we look laterally here, you could see where those two-way streets would be way out here, where those spinal nerves are with the two-way traffic. Okay, so here is a drawing. We have a vertebrae. This is a cervical vertebrae in your neck. And so go back through, identify the structures which are lateral to the spinal cord, identify the parts of the spinal cord, figure out what is central nervous system, what is not central nervous system. See if you can find the three layers of the meninges. And ladies, when you are in childbirth and you get your epidural, it's called an epidural because the dura is that thick outer layer of the meninges. And so the epidural is outside that. The epidural is actually an injection, here into this adipose tissue. And so what happened is that anesthetic is going here. So it's hitting here, the sensory input going in. It is not the same thing as getting spinal anesthesia. Okay, not the same thing as all, because for spinal anesthesia, they would inject the anesthetic to where the cerebral spinal fluid is. All right, that's it for this section. I will see you when we come back, and we're going to be looking at structures and functions of different structures of the brain. Thank you so much, and I'll see you shortly.